There's no courtroom that can accommodate a four-defendant trial, so it seems like the crime will continue on. Well, hello there, my friends. Chris Marcus here with you for Arcadia Economics, and today an exciting video about, in the words of the U.S. Department of Justice, criminal enterprise trading desk, precious metals trading desk of JP Morgan. We have some updates about that case with the Rico charges. I thought today would be a good day to share that. Some of this I've mentioned before. Actually, this first one is an update back in August 25th. And I've talked about this particular development, which is rather stunning in my opinion, regarding the latest postponement of the trial. There have been, and also the sentencing of the other fellows, but the trial of the JP Morgan, some of whom have ties to the LBMA traders who are being charged with the Rico statute. So let us dig in, because here you see the four guys: Greg Smith, Michael Novak. I don't know if it's Nowak, or I'm going to go with Novak for the purposes of this video. Chris Jordan and Jeffrey Rubio. And basically, Edmund Chang of Illinois, Honorable Edmund E. Chang of Illinois Northern District Court, warned that the court is still operating under pandemic-era jury trial protocols that require social distancing and other safety measures such as masking and testing. Now, I don't know if that's still required if all of them have received, I think, something I'm not supposed to say on YouTube, but a treatment from pharmaceutical companies that has been mandatory or heavily pressured in certain circumstances. I don't know if that would negate these safety concerns, yet the court had hoped the protocols would have ended or at least be modified by mid-October 2021, and indeed even earlier. But that the recent surge in the community spread of that thing, which you could see and read for yourself there, has undermined that expectation. Now, what that really plays in is that the protocols still limit the number of trials that can be conducted at any one time. So 3 courtrooms are needed to conduct one trial somehow, as well as reduce the number of defendants who can be tried at any one time. And that's the key point, because on that latter point, there is no courtroom that can currently accommodate a 4-defendant criminal trial. So even if the U.S. Department of Justice has labeled the JP Morgan precious metals trading desk as a criminal enterprise, they, along with the CFTC, fined JP Morgan $920 million a couple of years back. JP Morgan was fined again last year for evading regulators using WhatsApp chats. God only knows what their precious metals traders were doing then. Was that part of their attempt to keep the price in check during Silver Squeeze weekend in February of last year, 2021? That necessitated Ross Benham of the CFTC and Reagan's Working Group on Capital Markets, more affectionately known as the Plunge Protection Team, to have to intervene and tamp down the price. These are the words of the actual CFTC commissioner: to control the price and volatility of the silver contracts to avoid a much worse outcome, which seems to me that they understand the risks of the silver fraud being exposed. And we'll leave that for another video that is coming your way soon. Good reason to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. But on the latter point, as you see here, there's no courtroom that can accommodate a 4-defendant trial, so it seems like the crime will continue on. Now, I did submit my evidence to the CFTC regarding Silver Squeeze weekend, where JP Morgan was downgrading the silver sector, as their own SLV data was showing the greatest inflow of silver buying in history. Although when it goes into SLV, and if SLV doesn't actually put the metal into the trust, segregated as promised, and as they told me when I called their investor relations on February 5th of last year, just 2 days after they changed the prospectus, and didn't mention that, well, they couldn't produce the audit either, which I guess means that no one who bought those other 120 million shares was checking that. Then later they announced a miscount. So while all of this is going on, perhaps this trial could put an end to it, or if Ross ever finishes silver investigation, could put an end to it, because it seems like there's clearly acknowledged fraud. Common sense indicates that it's continuing. but until the pandemic is over, which would allow Pfizer juiced up JP Morgan traders to theoretically safely enter a courtroom for the time, I guess we'll just sit here and play the waiting game. Or I don't know. We don't have to do that. I mean, there's a few other things that we can do, which are all within legal, moral, and ethical standards. So power to the people. I mean, and I think at some point, I don't know, we're getting monthly 8.5% inflation prints. I think people are starting to notice that, and things don't seem to be going so well in that whole Russian situation either. But we'll see how the silver situation resolves. But just wanted to let you know that at the hearing, the government reported there are no active plea negotiations with any of the defendants, and it is anticipated all 4 defendants will proceed to trial at this time, just not at this particular time. And they can't break them up into parties of 2, but at some theoretical date in the future, they will go to court if the pandemic ever ends. Let's recall that this prosecution arises out of an alleged commodities spoofing conspiracy perpetrated by the precious metals trader. Superseding indictment charges a conspiracy to commit racketeering activity, as well as substantive counts of fraud, spoofing, and attempted price manipulation. Now, I'm not sure if that's alleged. I suppose with specific respect to these 4 guys, maybe it is. Although, as we will dig into in some other areas of today's video, a lot of this has been court detailed. So while I can't tell you exactly what the government will do, if they'll ever do anything, or how it will exactly resolve, I would say that my claim that the price of gold and silver are manipulated, I'd like to think that, we have enough justification to say that I did get that right. But in either case, I will put this link and all of the other links in the description field below of this baby, so you can click there and read them for yourselves. Now, at the moment, I don't want to give a bad example to the kids, but so far it appears that crime does pay, at least if you do it for JP Morgan or the US government. I'll put the link to this one below. I don't know that we need to read the numbers of how much each of these guys made, but there's John Edmonds, the first guy who confessed. Here's Christian Troons at 2.7. You see Novak was the big boy at 23.7. Ruffo earned 10. Turnbull, now he's an interesting one. I think he's the guy who wanted to get rehired. If you check out Donald Turnbull on Wall Street on Parade by Russ and Pam Martins, they had an interesting story about him. So in either case, I mean, this certainly is a fascinating case. I wonder if they ever get this thing going, if I could go there and cover it with footage. That would be exciting. I'm not sure if it will be safe in this type of wildly contagious era, as the government groups tell us, but we will leave that aside. Link to this one below, and be wild if it ever gets going. Here's another one. By the way, these are all by Maria Nikolova of fxnewsgroup.com. And actually, if you go up in the search, type JP Morgan or Rico charges, or just Rico, you can get a lot of the articles she's written about this case. I did reach out to see if we can get her on the show, which would be exciting. I also did contact a lawyer and have a nice document that I like to think would be helpful for anyone in the silver world, where I'm not sure what case I mean, there are some options now. More my hope is that there's some things which need more evidence that could conceivably come out during this trial, or cross everything as a silver investigation. But either case, there are certain things that are being done. I don't know how it'll resolve, but anyway, let's continue here, because the U.S. Department of Justice has, oh yes, and I wanted to mention, reached out to see if we can get Maria on the show. Perhaps she will have some more information about those options. So with that said, Department of Justice has stood behind the second superseding indictment of the JP Morgan traders. And let's here are the charges: spoofing, commodities fraud, wire fraud, attempted price manipulation, conspiracy to commit price manipulation, conspiracy to conduct or participate. Now, I don't know these fellas. I don't know the first thing about what they're doing, but certainly there have been, through the Deutsche Bank case records and others, clearly that this type of stuff is going on. Now, in the end, whatever, if this guy goes to jail or loses his job, or not going to make my world better. I'm just hoping that the system could put a stop to this general pervasive trend of activity, which has continued on. And we'll have wait till you see the next one coming up. Note on that. But anyway, I wanted to mention this one because they talk about the barrier options. Barrier running. Now, what is that? I actually read through one of the longer files from a couple of years back, one of the JP Morgan trader confessions. And they talked about manipulating it during the options expiration. And here you go. Specifically, both indictments allege that the defendants defrauded JP Morgan clients who had bought or sold barrier options by trading in a manner that was calculated to push the price of the underlying assets away from the price point at which Bank A, JP Morgan, would lose money on the options, and towards the price point at which Bank A, JP Morgan, would profit from the options. So if you've seen any of those videos I've done on options expirations, and mi amigo Nate Fisher is also going to be doing some videos on options expiration going forward. We're not making it up. Now, just because there's 500 contracts on the open interest, I don't know that that's all JP Morgan, but again, now this is being alleged against these guys, but you can find one of the other confessions where the guy confessed to doing it. So that's how sometimes you can guess with an above 50-50 probability, or at least to a degree that over the long run probably could be profitable. I've been not doing as much trading lately, but if you spent your time gaming these things, and I think people are doing that, and that's up to any individual person to do. But just again pointing out, this isn't conspiracy theory. This isn't make believe. I'm not. I see a lot of people still refer to, oh, well, silver is going to go up because there's the buying pressure, but the idea that it's manipulated is conspiracy theory. And I guess I'm going to learn to not spend too much more time in my life worrying about that. But I mean, at least in terms of if you want to know whether it's actually happening or not, the court documents are there sometimes. And then you connect that with other things that happen, and perhaps leaves you with more questions ultimately than answers. But at least, it's a murky world. And anyway, hopefully this puts some context on it. Now, here you can see this was the John Edmonds confession. This is back November 8, 2018. Now, I'm recording this one on Friday, April 22nd of 2022. So it's about 3.5 years later. And you see, here's from the Department of Justice. Former precious metals trader John Edmonds at JP Morgan, as we found out later, pleaded guilty in a proceeding unsealed yesterday to commodities fraud and a spoofing conspiracy in connection with his participation in fraudulent deceptive trading activities. I mean, you see that it happened. So it's not conspiracy theory anymore. And here is the interesting part, that he learned the deceptive trading strategy from more senior traders at the bank, and he personally deployed the strategy hundreds of times with knowledge and consent of his immediate supervisors. So when these guys are saying they have no idea, I saw there was another story where they're trying to get these things tossed out and saying, hey, we didn't have any idea what was going on. Well, that they can say that, and it's possible that they did not know what was going on, but to say that it wasn't going on and somebody knew what was going on because this guy already confessed. So there you go. Now here, interesting, I'll put this link in there before. I won't go through the entire thing, but Department of Justice names 34 witnesses in lawsuit against JP Morgan traders. A list of interesting folks. There's John Edmonds. There's Corey Flom, who came over from Bear Stearns. We have, who were some of the other interesting ones? Jonathan Luca, there he is. He is one of the case agents who will testify regarding his participation in the investigation, including a consensual interview with defendant Jordan, discuss various documents. He'll also provide expert testimony. Now, that doesn't sound all that exciting until you see that here. Who is Jonathan Luca? U.S. Department of Justice opposed an attempt by former JP Morgan traders accused of spoofing to exclude the testimony of a former Morgan Stanley trader who is now an FBI agent. I mean, how much more exciting could this get? Oh, now there's one thing that someone did tell me about 2 or 3 years ago, someone I've had on the show that you know well, that is perhaps along these lines that I am not really at liberty to reveal, but this, we'll just say that this will tell you, this gives a much different picture than just, when you don't know about these things. So here you see Smith, Novak, Ruffo, and Jordan have sought to prevent the testimony of Special Agent Jonathan Luca. It's like a Donnie Brasco in the precious metals markets. Some 2 weeks after the defendants filed their motion, the DOJ has submitted a reply in opposition, argues that Special Agent Luca qualifies and has qualified as an expert on jargon in the precious metals industry based on his experience working as a precious metals trader and his extensive investigation of spoofing cases as an FBI agent. All right, I got to get the movie rights to this. Give me a new laptop. Current Mac's hurting a little bit. Better get that while the silver supply chain is still intact, I might add. Who knows if Apple's supply is there, but we'll stick to the script here because Agent Luca is qualified to provide expert testimony regarding terms and jargon. In this case, Luca joined the FBI's New York field office in July of 2011. Wow. I'd read about him before, but it's just exciting saying it out loud. I got to meet this guy. In the ensuing 10 years, Luca's work focused on cases of complex financial fraud, including securities and commodities, insider trading, market manipulation, and fraud and spoofing in the precious metals futures markets. Agent Luca has worked on about 100 cases, with approximately half involving commodities. During his work on these cases, Agent Luca estimates he has reviewed hundreds of thousands of relevant chats and interviewed over 100 people involved in trading, including commodities. Through his work, he's gained substantial exposure to industry terms and the jargon used by traders. Has the added layer of expertise of having worked as a trader, primarily of precious metals, for over 2 years at Morgan Stanley. And the relevant professional experience only strengthens Agent Luca's already firm foundation for expert testimony and leaves little doubt that Agent Luca's combined experience affords him more insight than a layperson into industry practices and jargon, demonstrating that his testimony will assist the jury according to the Department of Justice. Yeah, let Agent Luca in the trial, please. We won't go through his entire resume, although Internal Audit Department of the New York Mercantile Exchange, Department of Justice is defending his credentials and investigating the precious metal industry, even though the traders don't seem to like that. Defendants challenge his expertise to interpret terms related to barrier options, protect a barrier, run a barrier, and play with a barrier, claiming he never traded barrier options specifically, therefore lacks the requisite experience. So either case, ultimately, to extend the defendant's wish to challenge, it's not exclusion of his testimony. Government says his testimony is admissible. I would love to hear what Agent Luca has to say. And there you go. So you have Agent Luca. You also have David Petty from my former Susquehanna International Group. He is a victim witness who will testify regarding Susquehanna's algorithmic trading in precious metals futures contracts at certain points during the relevant period for superseding indictments. So I wonder if you have a claim during the same period. What I had been hoping with my other legal letter was that you could kind of piggyback on one of these, or at least the evidence that comes out. There are some options now, and again, I will have that in a future video, but wanted to just give you an update of what was happening here and with Agent Luca. Of course, just to give you one last reference point, New York denies class certification in Forex price fixing suit. And here we see some of the familiar, there's JP Morgan, HSBC, Citibank, Bank of America, Barclays. So, I mean, we're not really going off the reservation here to wonder if this is actually happening. Right now, at ArcadiaEconomics.com, if you go to this tab up here, is the evidence room. We actually had a couple fellows, really talented Arcadians and comedians who you might have met at Silverfest. They've been helping us beef this up and get some of the documents in here. I have some more things that I've added in my file, and as well as we're going to get a lot of the videos that I've made documenting some of these different things. So for some people, you may be able to make a claim. For example, in the $920 million fine, there was $311 million set aside for victim restitution, but that's only if you were trading a specific futures contract. So if you own gold or silver, you might not have a claim, but if you were trading futures, you actually may. And that and a lot of other stuff we'll be putting in here. So some people may have certain options. There are a couple of cases that have gone on, which I've reported on before. But also, I'm not sure if I particularly have a case now, but it's one of those open-ended things where who knows? And I guess there's some balance in keeping an eye on it and understanding. I think it's still affecting the market on a daily basis, yet, if there do become some realistic options available, following through with that, also at some point focusing on the positive things out there and not getting caught up in that energy of it, which is something I know is a challenge for me at times. But anyway, on the evidence page, here's the letter I sent to CFTC's Ross Benham. Here's my follow-up with Donna Falkwhite and a whole bunch of other stuff. And lastly, if you're wondering, ultimately, how does this resolve? Well, I guess only perhaps God knows that at this point, but I did create a book. I don't know if I wrote it, but it was done interview style with 15 of the world's top silver experts, many of whom you see on the show regularly. And it wasn't just my opinion, but asking them, what do they make of this? How does this ultimately have to resolve? Can the laws of supply and demand stay distorted by Ross the boss forever? A lot of that dig into here. David Morgan, others commenting on for how many ounces of silver, for each ounce of silver, how many paper claims are there on that ounce? So that is the big silver short. You can find out more about that at ArcadiaEconomics.com, or you can just go there and click or buy it on Amazon. Fortunately, I think a lot of people have been enjoying that. I feel quite proud to have been a part of it, not just because it was me, but because of the other folks that were in there. And I thought certainly, and I think I will write some sort of book about silver at some point, a lot of the things that I've seen and witnessed, but really, since it's such an expansive topic with so much history and so many different perspectives, it was nice to do it interview style format. So also available in the audio book and in Kindle and all that other stuff. So with that said, thanks again for being here. Hope that update was helpful. Hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and we'll keep you posted on that going forward. And I'll see you again soon.